Kevin Beets wasn't supposed to be anywhere near that cut. One wrong turn with the dozer, a collapsed patch of ground, and suddenly he's staring at a crack filled with material nobody on the Beets crew has ever seen before. At first, it looks like a simple anomaly, maybe a pocket of old pay left behind. But the moment he scrapes the surface, the dirt flashes like someone hid a handful of coins inside it. Then comes the weight. Every rock he lifts feels heavier than it should, dense in a way that makes the crew stop what they're doing and watch. Within minutes, Kevin realizes he hasn't just hit rich ground. He's stumbled straight into something untouched, sealed, and unbelievably concentrated. What starts as an accident turns into the moment that rewrites the entire season. Because this pocket isn't just good, it's worth $80 million. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Because what Kevin Beets stumbles into today is the kind of accident that changes entire mining seasons, and you don't want to miss what happens next. It starts in the most ordinary way possible. Kevin's sitting in the dozer, cross-checking numbers on his tablet, planning out a simple push. Nothing dangerous, nothing unusual. Just another morning on the cut, except he misreads one tiny measurement by about a meter. Not enough for anyone to care. Not enough to cause a problem, but just enough to shift his blade a little farther forward than he meant to. When the steel scrapes into the ground, the sound is off. Not the usual grind of gravel, but something cleaner, almost hollow. He eases forward again, expecting to correct it, but the next pass pulls up a strip of dirt that doesn't match anything around it. Bright, almost fresh-looking, untouched by rain or machines or time. The crew nearby looks up instantly. They can't explain why, but the color of that patch feels wrong for this stretch of ground. Kevin jokes about it, brushing the dirt with his boot, pretending it's no big deal. But then the soil beneath him shifts. Just a small drop, barely an inch, but sharp enough to make him freeze. The ground shouldn't move like that. Not here. Not in this cut. He steps back, testing the surface with his heel, and feels something he's never felt before. A thin, fragile crunch, like stepping on a layer that's been hiding air underneath. He drops to one knee, presses his hand down, and the surface gives a soft echo, the kind that doesn't come from dirt or stone. The crew gathers without being called. A simple misread measurement suddenly feels like the start of something unusual. Kevin grabs a shovel and taps the area directly beneath the strange dirt. The moment metal hits the surface, the echo returns, clearer this time, sharp and hollow. Not the dull thud of packed earth. This is something with space below it. Something thin. Something waiting. Then a quiet draft of cold air snakes out of a hairline crack that wasn't there seconds earlier. Not warm air from a pocket of sun-baked rock. Cold air, as if the ground is breathing from somewhere deeper than a simple, settling shift. One of the crew takes a step back. Another follows. Nobody says it, but everyone feels it. This isn't ground shifting. This is ground giving away to something beneath it. The crack begins widening. Not fast, not dangerously, just slowly peeling open like the top layer has been resting on something smoother. Something more compacted than it has any right to be. As Kevin clears away the loose dirt, the surface underneath looks almost shaped. Not carved, not man-made, but pressed, as if years of pressure or some sudden ancient collapse compacted it into a level, unnatural sheet. He brushes more debris away and reveals a long, smooth surface running in both directions, completely hidden under the normal gravel layer. It doesn't match any soil type they've worked with all season. Curious, Kevin breaks off a small chunk. The reaction on his face says everything. It's heavier than it looks. Too heavy for its size. A kind of weight that makes him shift his stance just to hold it properly. He turns it in his hand, and the inside catches the sunlight with a faint flash. Not the dull shimmer of mica, not the false gleam of pyrite. Something denser, something real, something that makes the crew stop shifting around and lean in closer. Kevin wipes the surface with his thumb, and the glint gets brighter. Tiny flecks embedded deep inside the chunk. The mood changes instantly. The jokes collapse. The chatter disappears. Every pair of eyes locks onto that shattered piece sitting in Kevin's palm. He breaks off another fragment from the exposed layer, and the same flash appears. Only this time, it's stronger, brighter. The kind of brightness you only see when something has been sealed away, untouched, unwashed by water or weather. The kind of brightness that makes miners stop moving and start recalculating everything they thought they knew about the ground beneath them. Kevin crouches closer to the widening crack, brushing the compacted surface again, and notices the faintest vibration under his fingers, like there's empty space below, something with depth, something not yet exposed. The cold air drifting upward grows steadier, almost rhythmic, almost alive, and as he chips away another piece, the material beneath starts showing more consistent flashes, more density, more hints of something that feels too concentrated to be accidental. What began as a tiny misread measurement has triggered the unveiling of a sealed layer that shouldn't exist, holding something heavier, brighter, and far more mysterious than anything Kevin expected when he climbed into that dozer. And now, with the crack widening and the hidden layer revealing more of its strange, glittering interior, Kevin realizes there is something underneath this ground that they were never supposed to find. Something impossible to ignore now that it's in the open. Careful not to break anything loose too fast, he crouches and lifts one of the exposed chunks, brushing the red dust away with the side of his glove. The moment the surface clears, the whole mood around him shifts. The color inside isn't scattered or subtle. It's pressed together, thick, bright, and woven through the material, like the dirt and the metal fused before time locked it in place. Kevin tilts it toward the sun, and the interior fires back, flashes so sharp the crew instinctively leans closer, silent but wide-eyed. Nobody has to say a word. Every look says the same thing. This isn't normal pay. This isn't a good streak. This is something entirely different. This is thick, solid, and clustered in a way they've never seen. One of the guys scoops a handful of loose dirt from the edge of the crack just to test it, and when he drops it into a pan, the dirt sparkles the entire way down, like someone sprinkled glitter into the earth. Even the smallest broken pieces have weight to them, the kind of weight that makes your arm adjust automatically. Kevin holds the chunk up again, feeling that heavy drag, and he knows right away that this isn't just a rich patch. This isn't a bonus pocket or a lucky strike. This ground is loaded, sealed tight, and hiding more than any of them expected when they came into this cut. Before he can process it, the fragile edges of the cracked surface shift again. A thin line caves inward, and then the whole section around his boots drops in one soft motion. Not violently, not like a sinkhole, just a quiet collapse, like the earth exhaled and gave way. Dust rolls up, and the crew jumps back as the surface opens wider, revealing the dark outline of a shallow cavity underneath. The opening is small but unmistakable, and when Kevin peers into it, he sees the packed layers inside, material so tightly compressed it almost looks sculpted. There's no wash, no channel marks, no signs that water ever moved through it. This part of the ground hasn't been disturbed by nature or machinery. It's been sealed, untouched, preserved beneath the cut, like it's been waiting for someone to finally pry it open. Kevin gets down low, hands pressed to the edge as he studies the shape inside. The cavity isn't hollow like a cave. It's filled, dense, compact, jammed with material that looks heavier than regular gravel. He knows if he rips forward with the machine, he could crush whatever is inside, or worse, bury it deeper. So he waves off the equipment and starts clearing the edges by hand. The others follow without question, each moving slow, peeling away the loose top layers instead of scooping anything blindly. The more they reveal, the more the cavity widens sideways, showing that what they thought was a small sealed chamber might actually stretch farther into the cut. The air drifting out is still cold, still clean, and the walls of the cavity shimmer faintly even before they put light on them. Kevin reaches into the loose material at the front of the opening, brushing aside pieces that crumble under his fingers. Something larger sits deeper, half buried under layers of the sealed sediment. He grips it with both hands and pulls. The object resists for a moment, stuck in whatever compressed it for who knows how long. Then it pops free with a dull thud against the edge of the cavity. Kevin nearly loses his balance with the weight of it. It's a stone the size of a loaf of bread, rough on the top. But when he tilts it, the underside flashes so violently, the crew stiffens in unison. Streaks of bright metal run across the entire bottom of the stone. Not flecks, not flakes, but long, thick ribbons fused into the rock like veins in a muscle. The sunlight catches the streaks and lights them up like fresh paint. It doesn't look washed out or worn. It looks sealed in, protected from erosion, preserved with a purity they've never seen in natural coarse material. Kevin shifts his hands, struggling to grip it because the weight is all wrong for its size. Dense, solid, almost like the rock is carrying more metal than stone. The piece hums with heaviness, and the silence around them thickens. The crew stares, each one processing what they're looking at. Nobody reaches for it. Nobody tries to joke. Nobody talks. They all just stand there, absorbing the fact that Kevin just pulled a multi-million-dollar stone from a cavity that shouldn't even exist. Kevin angles it again, letting the streaks catch the light from a different angle. The shine moves like liquid. The metal isn't thin. It's layered, depending on how he turns it. Some of it sits flush with the rock, smooth and fused. Other sections bulge in thick, uneven lines, as if the material had once pooled before being locked into place. He can feel the density through his gloves, the kind of density that makes miners instantly understand value even before a scale touches it. The air around them feels different now, charged, focused, tense. The crew shifts closer, trying to see if the cavity behind the first stone holds more of the same. Kevin sets the rock gently on the ground, and its weight hits with a dull, heavy impact that feels like the ground absorbing something substantial. He turns back to the cavity, brushing deeper into the compressed material, noticing that the same glimmer patterns show up further in. The sealed layers are thick with promise, and even with only a few inches cleared, it's obvious this wasn't a one-off. The cavity is full of material that hasn't seen daylight in centuries, maybe longer, each piece carrying a heaviness that hints at even bigger finds deeper inside. The crew spreads out around the opening, clearing the edges, widening the cavity carefully, making sure nothing collapses onto the hidden material. Kevin digs further with his hands, feeling the crunch of compacted layers break apart under his fingers. Every handful of loose sediment he removes reveals more glints, more embedded streaks, more signs that the sealed chamber is packed wall to wall with stones carrying similar metal-rich veins. The deeper they go, the brighter it gets, each fragment reflecting the kind of richness that miners dream about but never actually expect to find. Kevin reaches in again, brushing away another layer of packed sediment, feeling the cold surface of a second embedded stone, and realizes the first piece wasn't the prize, it was only the warning. Whatever sits deeper is larger, heavier, and tightly locked into the layer like it's been sealed in place for centuries. When he shifts his weight to get a better grip, the surrounding material trembles, sending a dull vibration through the ground that makes the nearby crew look up instantly. One glance at Kevin's face is all it takes for the mood to flip from curiosity to full alert. That's when the site starts to fill. Workers drift in from every direction, some still strapped into welding aprons, others wiping grease from their hands, a few who should have been miles away hauling fuel. Nobody called them. Nobody radioed. Word moves on instinct when something this rare is happening, and the sight of Kevin standing over a growing pile of stone streaked with bright metal draws them in like a magnet. These are miners who've spent years chasing crumbs, grams, ounces, the occasional lucky streak. But what they see forming in front of them isn't a streak. It's concentrated in a way none of them have witnessed on this claim, or any claim in this valley. And the realization hits all of them at once. This find rewrites everything they thought they knew about this ground. One of the workers, a guy who jokes about everything, lets out a laugh and mutters, "This is lottery material." Normally, that'd spark a round of groans or sarcasm, but this time nobody plays along. Nobody smirks or rolls their eyes, because the weight in Kevin's crate, even at a glance, isn't a joke. It's exactly what a lottery win looks like in mining form. Dense, gleaming, life-changing. Kevin crouches beside the crate, placing the stones inside carefully, not wanting to risk another collapse by leaving them out on the unstable edge. Every new piece they pull from the cavity gets its own space, each one hitting the bottom of the crate with that unmistakable heavy thud. Every handful of loose material they scoop out shows color, not flecks. Color, the glittering type that settles in layers, thick and bright, leaving the pan glowing even before water touches it. As the crowd expands, Kevin shifts his focus to the side of the cavity, widening the opening without disturbing the fragile ceiling. The deeper he clears, the more the glimmer spreads across the compacted surface. It stops looking like scattered pockets and starts looking like a whole section alive with metal. When he breaks through a hard seam of compressed dirt, the ground behind it erupts in glitter. An entire wall shimmering beneath the dust. This isn't a vein, not a streak, not a run. It's a bubble, a sealed dome of pay that hasn't been touched by water, machines, or oxygen. The air that spills out is cold and old, carrying the stale scent of earth that's been locked away for ages. The wall inside the pocket isn't rough like the surrounding stone. It's smoother, softer, packed with material that looks like it was compressed under immense pressure before being sealed. Kevin reaches out and brushes it with his fingertips. Even the slightest pressure knocks off a chunk the size of a fist. It drops into his palm, and the entire broken cross-section shines with visible gold woven through it. Pure, raw, untouched metal sitting right inside the stone. He turns the chunk over and the brightness spreads across his glove. The crew gasps under their breath. Not loud, not dramatic, just that quiet, stunned noise people make when their brains can't process what they're seeing. Those chunks keep falling away. Every time Kevin touches the wall, more material loosens, each piece heavier than it looks, each fragment carrying that dense, unmistakable weight that miners instantly understand. Every sound, the clatter of stone hitting buckets, the scrape of gloves across compacted dirt, the low murmurs of disbelief, builds the tension around the pocket. Someone shines a light deeper into the opening, and the reflection bounces back brighter than any of them expected. The pocket isn't just real, it's massive. They start removing material methodically, hauling it out one bucket at a time, filling trays and crates with the richest dirt they've ever seen in their lives. The smallest stones, ones that should weigh nothing, hit their palms with a shocking heaviness. Everyone comments on it. Even the new guys, who don't usually notice the subtleties, feel the difference instantly. Stones the size of pebbles feel like bullets. Fist-sized rocks feel like bricks. The density is so off the charts that nobody even attempts a proper estimate. At first, they just keep pulling, collecting, sorting, and trying not to overwhelm themselves with what they're uncovering. But eventually, someone starts doing the mental math, rough calculations. Ballpark figures. The kind of offhand guesses miners make after enough years of handling pay. By the time they've filled the first crate, even the most conservative estimate puts them in multi-million-dollar territory. And the crate is only the beginning. One crate from a pocket. This dense is enough to change a season. But this pocket isn't a single crate's worth. Not even close. Kevin kneels again, running his hand along the cavity floor, and feels the give beneath the debris. The pocket doesn't stop where the wall is. It continues downward, deeper than the opening suggests. He clears a bit more, finds another seam, and brushes away the loose dirt. More glitter, more layers, more weight. Every sign points to one thing. This pocket is much larger than they assumed when they pulled the first stone. The chamber dips into a trough, an uneven depression filled with darker, heavier material. They widen the space around it carefully, brushing away the settled gravel, revealing what looks like another spill of compacted pay beneath the chamber. This section is darker, denser, almost black in places, with gold streaks punching through like lightning trapped in stone. Kevin touches it, expecting it to crumble like the other layers, but instead it feels solid, firm, jammed tight with material too rich to even guess at without pulling it free. The workers gather close, their boots edging toward the cavity as they lean in to see deeper. No one takes out a phone. No one records a thing. Every pair of eyes is locked on the impossible brightness growing inside that hollow. The weight in the buckets keeps climbing. The color gets stronger. Every fresh scoop makes it clearer that they haven't just hit a pocket. They've cracked open the top of something, stretching far beyond what they can see. An entire chamber of untouched pay buried beneath the debris. Kevin reaches toward another handful, but the crew stops him, reminding him they need to know what they're dealing with before the ground shifts again. He nods, steps back, and lifts the first test load out of the cavity. Moments later, at the plant, Kevin chooses caution over adrenaline. Instead of dumping everything they've collected, he feeds the material in a slow trickle, just enough to keep the water moving steady. Even that tiny flow overwhelms the tray, gold stacking up before the riffles even clear. The crew crowd around, breathless, watching the glow spread across the mat like it's self-generating. Kevin scoops the first weighable portion, expecting a strong number, maybe a few thousand at best. But when the scale jumps so high he assumes it's malfunctioning, the entire plant goes silent. He resets it, places the tray again, and the number climbs straight back to the same impossible line. A first taste, barely a fraction of the material, has already crossed into seven-figure territory. The air tightens. Nobody speaks. Kevin's trying to look steady, but the weight of that number has his hands shaking. When they move on to the bigger pieces, the room takes on a surreal quiet. Every stone they weigh has its own personality. Gnarled, twisted, packed with metal in ways nobody has language for. One chunk alone is worth more than what most crews scrape together in a full brutal season. Another chunk tops even that. The numbers aren't just stacking, they're detonating. Soon the tally reaches a point where everyone stops trying to do the math in their heads. Then Kevin, who's been writing everything down to keep himself grounded, looks at the final total, reads it again, and just lowers the notebook. More than $80 million. They didn't chase this. They didn't map it. They didn't predict it. They drove into the wrong part of the cut and landed on something that shouldn't exist. The crew stands around the table, not celebrating, not cheering, just absorbing the scale of it. Kevin sits down on a crate, elbows on his knees, trying to accept that this freak moment will be the high-water mark of his entire career, the kind of break miners dream about and never see twice. They start packing the pieces, wrapping each one so it won't scrape the others, when Kevin feels a faint pulse of air against his wrist. It's cold, steady, unmistakable. fresh air from somewhere it shouldn't be. He shifts the last stone aside and spots a thin slit in the wall where light doesn't reach. Instinct kicks in. He grabs a flashlight, presses his face to the opening, and sends the beam through. On the other side, there's space. Not a small cavity like the first pocket, but a broad, open chamber stretching past the reach of the light. The interior glints in several spots, tiny flickers returning the beam with that same unmistakable shine. The room behind the wall hasn't been touched, hasn't collapsed, hasn't moved. It's waiting, and the gold signature inside it looks identical to the pocket they've just emptied. The truth hits all at once. The $80 million strike might not be a fluke. It might be the doorway. The first chamber, not the only one. Kevin lowers the flashlight slowly, breath stuck in his chest, knowing the story that was supposed to end today has just cracked wide open again.